All right, so I get it. You thought you would get an early start on the New Year's Eve festivities. Couple days early, usual routine, go out to the bars Friday night, make a fool of yourself, drink way too much, and here we are again. Final weekend of 2023, and yet again, the Maestro, yes, the conquistador is absent, but we will nurse you through. We will get you through your hangover here on Saturday morning, December the 30th, 2023, the final weekend edition of the year, the final Sports Frenzy episode of 2023. And we know you're going to go out tomorrow night and do it all over again on New Year's Eve. Amateur night. Just be safe. Have a designated driver. Try not to make a fool of yourself twice in a 3-day span. Hell, if you go out tonight, you can make it 3 for 3. You could be the Nikola Jokic of getting hammered. I said, I am the Maestro, Kevin Crane. Fry up the eggs, fry up the bacon, pound the aspirin, get the coffee brewing. It is time for, yes, the final weekend edition of 2023 here, Sports Frenzy 2.0, our look at pop culture, music, TV, streaming, and movies. Your Uncle Dave is not here, as I mentioned, so guess what? No books this week. Next week, though, we will have a review of the new Jack Reacher novel, The Secret. So you got that to look forward to in the first weekend edition episode of 2024. But other than that, we're not going to deviate too much. Also next week, by the way, the best of 2023 in music. The 5 best albums, the 5 best songs, the 5 best concerts. Always fun when Dave and I do this because we do not compare notes. So you will be as surprised, shocked as we are when we run down our lists next week for you in segment 1 of the weekend edition. But still got new music out there. Still got some new music to look at, to review, to wrap up 2023. Now, granted, this album kind of pigeonholed itself by claiming to be a Halloween album. So there was a very limited time frame for us to really review it to make it relevant. And unfortunately, we had enough to review in mid to late October where it didn't work for us. But now, here at the end of 2023, a few months after Halloween, I'm going to give you my review of Duran Duran's Danse Macabre. And yes, as I mentioned, it is a Halloween-themed album. It is all about darkness and spookiness. So on one level, it's a little bit infantile, a little bit immature, because it's not a brand new album in terms of, there's 13 tracks on Danse Macabre. There is not that many new songs on there. There are only 3 brand new Duran Duran songs on Danse Macabre. You have technically 7 cover songs, although the 7th cover is kind of a melding of an old Duran Duran song with a cover, and we'll get to it in a second. And then you've got a few remakes of old Duran Duran songs that happen to fit this theme of dark, spooky goings on. So on that level, I went into this with an open mind saying, okay, it's kind of goofy. I can't take this too seriously because obviously they're cherry picking cover songs, not necessarily because they think their versions are really, really good, but because the themes of the cover songs fit this dark, bleak Halloween theme. So let's break it down for you. We're not going to go through every track and review every one, but the three new songs are Black Moonlight, the title track, Danse Macabre, and then Confession in the Afterlife. So those are your three new Duran Duran songs on this album. The straight out cover songs are Bury a Friend, which is Billie Eilish, Supernature, which is somebody called Cerrone, Ghost Town from the Specials, Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones, obviously. And you can kind of see by these song titles where we're going here. Spellbound by Susie and the Banshees, and Psycho Killer by the Talking Heads. Now, the one song I mentioned where we're kind of melding old Duran Duran with a cover song is a song called Super Lonely Freak, which starts off as a reimagining of the old Duran Duran song Lonely in Your Nightmare, and then goes into a straight-on cover of, yes, Rick James' Super Freak. Now, of course, we do have three other tracks here, three other songs, old Duran Duran songs reimagined, because, again, they just fit this overt, hit you over the head with a hammer theme. Halloween, dark, eerie, spooky. Halloween, dark, eerie, spooky. That would include the leadoff track, Night Boat, Love Voodoo, and Secret October 31st, which is like a lost B-side. So it's been out there for a while, but it's never really appeared on any kind of an album. So there you go. That's a breakdown of what is on Danse Macabre. Now we get into what's good, what's bad. And again, I'm not going to go through each and every song. I will say this first off with the cover songs. Again, I think they were picked more because they fit the theme than they're actually great covers by Duran Duran. Surprisingly, I could say the best of the covers is the Billie Eilish song, Bury a Friend, especially where it fits in the sequence. Because the album starts out very, very well, and I know it's a recurring theme. We have seemed to go through this with album after album after album this year, where these albums start out really strong, and I know they're supposed to. You always put your best foot forward to get your listeners' attention. So let me go through the first four songs. Night Boat, which is off the 1981 debut album Duran Duran, leads off everything. Very, very, very good song. Very good song. Again, I'm trying to set things apart from this overarching theme. So Night Boat, very cool song. And then my favorite by far, the best of the three new songs, is the second track, Black Moonlight. Nice dance, funky kind of song. And of course, throughout the album, Nick Rhodes, the keyboard player for Duran Duran, has to play these spooky, eerie keyboards. But Black Moonlight, very catchy, very fun, very cool song. And then we go to Love Voodoo. I mentioned that is another old Duran Duran song. That one comes off the 1993 Duran Duran album. Some people call it the wedding album. Interesting, brief string intro. And you've got a highlight here with the bass is fantastic. So we're three in right now, and everything is going very well. And then we hit Bury a Friend, bringing it back around to where I was. the first of the covers, but probably the best of the covers, even though I don't know anything about the original. I'm not a Billie Eilish fan. Take that for what you will. To me, she's the perfect poster child for the millennial generation. But the song, as Duran Duran interprets it, is alternately, it's interesting and it's irritating. So it could be the same with the original. But for the most part, the interesting outweighs the irritating. So 4 songs in, everything's going good. Danse Macabre is a very intriguing, very interesting album, especially for those of us who have never done a deep dive on the Duran Duran catalog. And some of these songs like Night Boat and Love Voodoo, we've never really heard before. My wheelhouse is, of course, the classic era, Rio on to just before the 93 Wedding album. That's right where I was listening to every song on every album from Duran Duran. And I think Dave and I have mentioned this in the past. We are Duran Duran fans, big time fans. Now, when we grew up back in the 80s, you didn't really advertise that if you were a dude. If you were a dude, you had to be Motley Crue, Rat, Poison, Van Halen, even at the time getting into Metallica a little bit. And of course, nothing wrong with that. But there were certain bands you did not tell everybody, you did not advertise you were fans of. And it was Duran Duran, it was Wham, it was Culture Club. Now, for me, Duran Duran, George Michael, and Wham, loved them. But you had to kind of keep it quiet. Culture Club I never really liked, and I didn't care either way. But, Duran Duran, bunch of pretty boys playing a lot of synthesizers, didn't want to just scream it from the rooftops, scream it from the top of the gym at your local high school and say, I love Duran Duran. You are going to get beat down. So anyway, tangent aside, after Bury a Friend, the rest of the album, the rest of Danse Macabre, is really, really heavy on the cover songs and the revamps of old Duran Duran stuff. The other 2 new songs, I mentioned Black Moonlight is really good, but the other 2 new songs, the title track and Confession in the Afterlife, are by far the 2 worst songs on the album. If that tells you anything, that should tell you right there. That's a warning sign. Rock and roll siren is going off. If the new stuff isn't as good as the cover songs or the reimagined, revamped old Duran Duran songs, that should tell you right there the album is not going to be up there in the upper echelon of albums for 2023. So finally, in terms of the cover songs, real quickly, briefly, an overview. Never, never, ever, ever should you try to remake 2 songs that Duran Duran did remake. Do not touch Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones. Do not touch Psycho Killer by the Talking Heads. You'll never do them better. You will never, ever, ever, ever do them better. Ever. I'll give them an A for effort on both. How about that? I will give Simon Le Bon and the boys an A for effort on both. But you're never going to come close to the originals. Never. Interesting to hear Spellbound by Susie and the Banshees. Basically, when their version kicks in, Duran Duran's version kicks in here on Danse Macabre, I was like, oh, I know this song. Because I was never, ever, ever into Susie and the Banshees. But I was like, oh, I know this song. It's kind of catchy. Takes me back to my MTV days of the 80s. So for nostalgia's sake, it's fun. And then, of course, hearing Super Freak is always fun, even if it's, again, a subpar version. Do not make a remake of Rick James' Super Freak. You will never do it as good. So there's 3. I will amend my previous statement. Instead of the 2, it will be the 3. Do not redo Super Freak, Paint It Black, or Psycho Killer. Stay away. Just because they fit your little overarching dark Halloween theme does not mean your remakes will be good. So, in the end, not a terrible album. Danse Macabre is not bad. I just can't give it a wholehearted recommendation. I would give it a 2 frenzies out of 4. Interesting, intriguing, but I probably will not be listening to it as a whole again. I might listen to the first 3 or 4 songs, jump on Spotify when I've got 15 minutes to burn. I might do that because, again, very strong start to the album, but after that, really, really nothing that jumps out at me in terms of a must listen. So, once again, 2 frenzies, 4 Duran Duran's Danse Macabre. All right, got a couple other new songs for you. Now, of course, the well is getting dry here at the end of the year, heading into the new year, which is typical. Bands aren't putting out a lot of new stuff. They're not releasing a lot of new stuff because of the holidays. They know people have got their attention elsewhere. We do have, at the last possible minute, and I know Christmas is past, and I hope you had a fantastic Christmas, but Christmas is past. But at the last minute, we get a new Christmas song from David Lee Roth. Yes, I know. Every week we're getting a new song from David Lee Roth. Just put out an album, dude. Just put out an album. But this week we got Talking Christmas Blues. And I got to give Dave credit. Very, very funny, clever lyrics. Awesome harmonica to accompany the acoustic guitar. This could be the best Christmas song I heard this year. Better than anything on Mark Tremonti's Christmas album that we reviewed last week. Even better than the Hives and Cyndi Lauper, which of course was 15 years old, but new to you and me. Talking Christmas Blues is just fun. And again, the lyrics are great. You know, David Lee Roth is Jewish, so he weaves in references to Hanukkah and menorahs seamlessly, but along with happy holidays, Merry Christmas to the Christians out there. Can't we all just be like David Lee Roth and accept everything and work it all in, work in all the different holidays so we don't piss off anybody? 3 frenzies for Talking Christmas Blues from David Lee Roth. If you have not listened to this, I know, again, post-Christmas, check it out. It is going to make you smile. And again, probably the best new Christmas song I heard in 2023. Then finally, I think Dave will chime in on this one next week, but we will have very little time to review new stuff next week with that previously mentioned countdown that we're doing next week of the top 5 albums, songs, and concerts of 2023. So we'll see if the Conquistador wants to put his 2 cents in on the second single from Mick Mars, of course, formerly guitarist for Motley Crue. Second single from the upcoming album, The Other Side of Mars, is the right side of wrong. Now, again, I will make the same criticism with this song that I made with the first single, is that Mick Mars is not establishing himself as a distinctive solo guitar artist. And I know you guys have heard us talk about this over the last couple of weeks, and we've brought up the names of Steve Vai and Yngwie Malmsteen, even Ted Nugent. If you are going to be that type of guitar player, we're going to go out on your own and you're going to set up your own band, your own group of musicians, and try to establish an identity as a quote unquote solo artist, then you have got to make those guitar parts stand out. That's where you put your stamp on it. That's where you tell the world, this is my guitar work. This is my group. This is my band. George Lynch, of course, with Lynch Mob also comes to mind. Kenny Wayne Shepherd. Could go on and on and on. And here is the flaw with Mick Mars. He is not doing that. The guitar work on this song and the previous song do not distinguish him from the pack. There is nothing charismatic, nothing outstanding, nothing different about the guitar work on these songs from Mick Mars. And we know he's not singing. So what is there to make this anything other than cookie cutter nu metal? Now, I think I mentioned the first single sounded a lot like Nine Inch Nails, to me at least. Right Side of Wrong is better. I will say that. Right Side of Wrong is better. In terms of the song structure, I like this one better. It's catchy. It's got a good chorus. I still think it's trying a little too hard to be that newer, still with the industrial edge to it, the little bit of the Nine Inch Nails type of stuff, the Disturbed edge to it that just turns me off. This one actually needed a little more polish, a little more sheen to it. Somebody producing it, engineering it with a little more pop sensibility. I'm not saying turn it into an Adele song or a Taylor Swift song, but I'm saying buff the edges. Get a grinder, get a sander out there and clean off the edges. Make it a little bit smoother. And this could have been a really, really good song. But as it is, it's not bad. I will give Mick Mars' Right Side of Wrong 2.5 frenzies. And like I said, we'll see if Dave chimes in on this next week or the week after, what he thinks. And of course, we will review the full album, The Other Side of Mars, when it does come out in 2024. So that's going to do it for segment 1. Very, very glad you're here. Thank you for putting up with me alone. For 1 week, of course, the Conquistador will return to yell at you, to badger you, like a drill sergeant, to push you through your Saturday morning hangover. But for now, you put up with the dulcet tones of me, the Maestro, Kevin Crane. So segment 2 is up next, and we are into movie awards season. You guys know this. So all the pretentious crap is coming out now. And I will probably be reviewing a lot of the pretentious crap because somehow, year after year, decade after decade, I feel some kind of an obligation to review the critics' darlings. Because I'm always fascinated with what am I missing in most of these movies that the critics are seeing. I'm going to continue that thought after a quick promo break. I'm the Maestro, Kevin Crane, here on the weekend edition. Slam some more aspirin because you're stuck with me for another hour or so. Back in 60 seconds, kids.
In a world of politically correct sports coverage, two individuals stand alone as the last bastion of sanity. The Maestro and the Conquistador star in Sports Frenzy 2.0, the podcast.
Available on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, and Castbox. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Weekend Edition Sports Frenzy 2.0, the final weekend edition of 2023, the final Sports Frenzy podcast episode of 2023, dropping on December the 30th. I'm the Maestro, Kevin Crane, flying solo this week. As always, very, very happy that you are joining me for this extravaganza. Dave, the Conquistador Height, will be back next week for both the sports edition, dropping every Thursday morning, and, of course, in 7 days, the next weekend edition. Since Dave's not here, you know what that means. That means segment 2. I got to take over for him because he usually revels in telling you where you can find Sports Frenzy 2.0. I can't do it as well as him, but I will do my best. You can find Sports Frenzy 2.0, both the sports and the weekend editions, on Spotify, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. Don't forget to check out the Facebook page, where you can also find links to each and every episode. Might have to scroll down a ways to get to the older stuff. Much easier to go to Spotify, our home base, and find us that way. If you're looking for the older episodes, if you're looking for the back catalog, because it's all out there. Hundreds and hundreds of episodes for you to listen to and enjoy. Now, we are politically incorrect here. We curse, we swear, we say rude, awful things. We don't care what Hollywood thinks. We don't care what the establishment thinks. We're venting here, along with trying to tell you what to stay away from and what to maybe listen to, watch, or read. So it's kind of like a public service, an obnoxious public service. Let's put it that way. Why do I say that here before we get into our movie review of the week? Because I'm going to start getting pretty nasty. But again, we're explicit, so I really don't have to give you any forewarning. And you've probably, if you've listened in the past, come to expect this stuff. But ending last segment, I was kind of leading into an old movie critic that I believe it might have been either Roger Ebert or Gene Siskel once tried to explain why the general public, you and I, and our views of movies are so much different from the critics' views. And the explanation was pretty logical to a point, that they are forced to watch so many movies, dozens and dozens of movies every month. I mean, dozens and dozens and upwards of hundreds of movies every month, that they get so tired of the same old formulaic garbage, the same old crap that you and I get tired of. And if you keep track at home, keep score at home, you'll know that I'm usually about 80% thumbs down, again, Siskel and Ebert reference, on most of the movies I watch, because I have very high standard. Don't waste my time. Yet most of these movies waste my time, waste your time. And I think I'm even pickier than most of you guys out there. I'm pickier than the Conquistador, for God's sakes. I mean, he actually kind of liked Five Nights at Freddy's. Ugh. So that brings us again, as I referenced late in segment 1, to Oscar season, Golden Globe season, awards season. And I am obsessed, and I have been obsessed for over 20 years with watching all of these prestige movies, these movies that the critics fall in love with, trying to figure out why they love them so much. Again, I get it. They're watching all this direct. They're forced to watch all these awful cookie cutter movies that Sony, Columbia, Warner Brothers, Discovery, Paramount, Disney put out. That they're just looking for something different. They're always looking for something different. Anything off the beaten path is going to catch their eye. And that's where I think the disconnect comes in. Is that they're so obsessed with finding something different. If you had to eat chocolate chip ice cream every day of your life, over and over and over and over again, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then one day somebody gave you a piece of cheesecake or an apple strudel, you would be like, wow, that's different. I love it. It's so cool. It's different. It doesn't mean the apple strudel or the cheesecake is necessarily better than the ice cream. But because you're so used to the one thing, the one flavor, just something different stands out. And I think that's where the critics land versus where you and I land. We don't watch all the movies they watch. We can pick and choose. We can be choosy and selective. They can't. They have to watch everything. So again, you and I could watch a movie and think it's bizarre, boring, weird, perverse. And they're going to go, this is wonderful. It's so different. It's a social commentary on this. Or it's making its mark here in this realm. Hence and ergo, I start off my exploration of the award contenders that you're going to be seeing a lot of and hearing a lot about going into 2024. I start off with Saltburn. Saltburn just popped up on Amazon Prime here recently. So if you have Amazon Prime, and who doesn't, you can watch it for free. Saltburn is written and directed by Emerald Fennell, young female film auteur. First movie that she put out was Promising Young Woman. Never saw it. I believe Carey Mulligan starred in it, and she actually makes an appearance here in Saltburn. But the thing is, Saltburn, for all its edginess, for all of its scenes that push the envelope, and we'll get to those in a few minutes, the actual plot, the actual story itself has been done over and over and over and over again. Do you remember The Talented Mr. Ripley? With Matt Damon and Gwyneth Paltrow and I believe Jude Law? Same concept here. And it's the same concept we've seen over and over again in many movies. Odd, quirky, young man, most of the time in a school environment, whether it's high school or college, initially the focus of ridicule and teasing, ends up somehow ingratiating himself or herself in with the most popular boy or girl in school. And they so happen to be privileged and rich. And the said geeky nerd insinuates himself or herself into this rich family and ends up being manipulative and evil and ends up basically playing mind games with everybody in the family, pitting them against each other to get his or her way. And his or her way could end up involving a lot of money. And that's basically the premise behind Saltburn. Again, it is an idea, it is a story that has been done to death. So, number one, again, Saltburn is proof that there are no new ideas in Hollywood. Now, is Saltburn done well? I will say it's well acted. And I will say it's very, very beautifully photographed and filmed. So visually, it's very interesting to watch. And again, the acting is very good. But you just feel like you've been here, you've done this. Now, what supposedly makes Saltburn different is the shocking lengths the main character will go to manipulate, blackmail all the other characters. So first up, let me tell you who's in the movie. My main appeal. Now, my daughter kind of pushed me into watching this. My daughter goes to a lot of film festivals where she goes to school. So she's getting into a lot of these pretentious movies. So she kind of push me. She tends to push me even further than I already would. I probably would have watched Saltburn anyway without her prodding. But she tends to push me to watch these prestige movies. And of course, she tells me, "Oh, I'll be interested to know what you think of this one, Dad." Which is the second best way to trick me into watching a movie. Number one, of course, is, well, I liked it, but I don't think you would. Then I'm going to have to watch it. I'm going to have to. Now, I don't do this with music. If my daughter or anybody tells me, you won't like this, I'm like, cool, I'll stay away. Music is a lot different than watching a narrative, a story, reading a book, watching a TV series. When somebody challenges me with that whole passive aggressive, oh, but you wouldn't like it, then I'm going to actually end up watching it. So Saltburn stars, and I know I initially wanted to butcher his name, and I looked it up to make sure I was pronouncing it correctly, and I'm probably still going to butcher it, but I love this guy. He was in The Banshees of Inisherin. He made a guest appearance as the Joker at the end of the Batman, the Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson Batman. Now, I initially thought it was Barry Keoghan. It's Barry Keoghan. And again, it's probably still not 100% right. But I like this guy as an actor very, very much. And he plays this geeky, awkward character, Oliver Quick. Gee, does that sound like a play on Oliver Twist? Kinda, sorta, maybe. Please, sir, I want some more. And of course, that's kind of the character he plays, is that downtrodden, I don't have anything. Or does he? Pauper. So the object of his initial affection at school, he of course is a scholarship student, and then becomes fascinated with Felix Catan, played by Jacob Elordi, who, of course, is a Greek god. He is the best looking, most fit. He's a golden Greek god. He is, the women want him, the men want to be like him. So, of course, Oliver latches onto him and decides, I'm going to find a way to insinuate myself into his life, which he does, and gets invited to, for the summer, to Felix's mansion where he lives, of course, with his family. And the mansion is called Saltburn, hence the name of the movie. There we meet mother, father, sister, cousin, who Oliver has already had run-ins with at school. And as I mentioned, Oliver finds his way, weasels his way through all of these people in various different ways, finds their strengths, finds their weaknesses, and continues to elevate himself throughout the ranks of the family. Now, that's about as far as I want to go. I don't want to spoil it for you. If you want to watch Saltburn, that's up to you. I'm not going to tell you how it ends. The one last thing that I've been alluding to that I will mention, though, is this movie tends to try to shock you a lot. And I hate movies like that. I hate movies like that. There are 3 or 4 scenes in Saltburn, most of them sexual, where they just go too far, they go too over the top. Because, of course, in order to insinuate himself with the entire family, Oliver has to kind of swing both ways, if you know what I mean. So, even that can't be that simple, though, in Emerald Fennell's world. She, of course, has got to make these interactions as gross and robotic as possible. There is no passion here. There is no, actual sensuality. It's just disgusting, gross obsessions and the things that are done between, yes, consenting adults are just, in some instances, abhorrent to me. And again, of course, we have to have full frontal male nudity. We talked about this last week, and we'll get to Obliterated, the new Netflix show, in the next segment, with C. Thomas Howell. I didn't need to see his junk. But of course, we got to see more male genitalia here in Saltburn. And I get it. It's fine. It's equality, right? I get it. That's cool. We went through decades and decades of boobies and boobies and more boobies. So now I guess the Me Too movement, the women are having their say now. So now it's time for dicks. More and more dicks on the silver screen or on the small screen. I'm not sure if the actors would appreciate the small screen comment, but there you go. It's okay. You want to go down this road, that's fine. You're not going to make me a very happy viewer, but I get it. I get it. So all this shock and awe with all these different sexual scenes that are not sexual, they're not sexy at least, doesn't really do a lot to enhance my overall view of Saltburn. And again, as I mentioned, it's an old story, been done to death, well acted, well filmed. So that puts me at about 2 frenzies. Can't recommend it to you guys. Won't go down as the worst award contender I've ever seen in my life, but definitely not the best. Better than Nomadland. Let's put it that way. Much better than Nomadland. Oh my God. That movie scarred me. Of course, Best Picture from a couple years ago. It scarred me with how stupid it was. Saltburn is not stupid. I will say that. Saltburn is not stupid. It's just misguided. It goes for the shock and awe instead of actually having something new and different to say. So 2 frenzies for Saltburn. And finally, to wrap up segment 2 here on the weekend edition, the movies. Big news. Potentially big Hollywood landscape altering news. Warner Brothers, Discovery, and Paramount are dipping their toes into discussions talking about a merger. And yes, we are talking about 2 of the big major studios in Hollywood coming together. This is kind of like Disney and Fox getting together. Remember that? Has that worked out really well for us? Not really. That basically put Hulu and Disney Plus together on the streaming side. In terms of movies, at least they've kind of tried to keep the movie studio business separate with Disney and Fox. I don't know how that would work with Paramount and Warner Brothers. It seems like the main impetus behind this is they want to merge Max and Paramount Plus, because these studios are realizing the streaming does not make them money. Netflix seems to be the only company, along with probably Amazon, making money off of streaming. Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, Hulu, Apple TV Plus, even probably Peacock are all losing money, and they're hemorrhaging money. It's not pretty. So now they've got to scramble to try to find ways to stay afloat. And you've seen all of these offers that came through around Christmas time, around Black Friday. Oh, don't cancel your Hulu subscription. Stay with us and we'll give you 6 months for $2 a month. And then we'll give you Disney Plus for an extra $2 a month. Stay with Paramount Plus and we'll give you a year for 99 cents or whatever the offer was. But you know what I'm getting at. Peacock had a similar offer. You'll notice Amazon never changes their price points. They never offer a special deal on Prime. And you rarely ever see Netflix change their price points. Now they've added advertisements. Prime, of course, in a couple months will be adding limited advertisements to the Prime Video service. Netflix, of course, added a with ad feature, which I greatly appreciated, because I would not have Netflix right now if I had to pay $20 a month for it. No way, it's not worth it. Is it worth it for less than 10 with ads? Yes. But anyway, look for this in 2024 when you start hearing these rumors. Where there's smoke, there's fire. We could end up seeing, kind of like in college football, making a sports analogy, with all these conferences consolidating. We've seen the death of the Pac-12. The ACC could be on life support soon if Florida State wins a lawsuit to get out. And then they're going to jump to probably the SEC. If Warner Brothers and Paramount merge, you're going to start seeing less and less content. We've already got to suffer through an upcoming 2024, with fewer movies because of the repercussions of the strikes that we went through in 2023. I'm just telling you, if Warner Brothers and Paramount merge, won't be the best thing in the world. Again, less competition, less movies, rising prices, bad for the consumer, which means it's bad for you and me. All right, 2 segments down, 1 to go here. Hope you consumed your eggs, your bacon, your sausage, and a handful of aspirin, and you're getting over that hangover here on Saturday morning, December the 30th. 1 final segment left. We've got our weekly TV and streaming shows we like to discuss. I'll go through those really quickly here in the next segment, and then moments of silence, and of course, too bad Dave's not here because we have got enough in the world of pop culture to play dumbass or not. I'll be back in 60 seconds, kids. Stay tuned. Now that we've let you into Frenzy Club, here are 3 rules. 1, you don't talk about Sports Frenzy 2.0. You listen to it on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Apple, and all other major podcast hosts. 2 guys to a show. Kevin, Dave, the Maestro, and the Conquistador. 3, 1 Sports Frenzy episode at a time. Until Saturday, when you get the weekend edition. Now get in there and let loose on some PC wussbags, will ya? Third and final segment here, weekend edition, Sports Frenzy 2.0. Final weekend edition of 2023, December the 30th. I am the Maestro, Kevin Crane, on my own this week. 2 segments down, 1 to go. Usual sequence. We've done music. We've taken care of movies. No books this week, obviously, since Dave, who reads 5,247 books a year, isn't here. So we'll move on to TV and streaming. Then, of course, we have Moments of Silence and our dumb asses of the week in the world of pop culture. Real quick here, we've got 3 shows we've been watching. Of course, Jack Reacher. Mentioned that we will be reviewing the new Jack Reacher book next week on the weekend edition. But of course, Reacher, the phenomenal Amazon Prime series, starring Alan Rickson. 4 episodes in, as we're taping here. I believe the 5th one is getting ready to drop. Of course, based on the book Bad Luck and Trouble. Dave and I have both read all of the Lee Child Reacher books. Kind of disappointed that they're jumping around and not going in sequence, as they started off with season 1, book 1, Killing Floor. But now they jump way ahead to Bad Luck and Trouble. And again, overly optimistic to think that the Reacher series will last for 20 odd years to cover all the books. You can always hope. When it's a great, great show like this, you can always hope. They have renewed for season 3. We don't know what book in Leah Child's series they're going to adapt next. But for now, 4 episodes in on Bad Luck and Trouble. Still very, very good. And again, not spoiling anything for you. We do not spoil things for you here. We do our absolute best. Nothing is more irritating in life than somebody, whether it be a friend, a family member, a website, a talking head on the radio or TV who spoils a movie or TV plot for you. God knows they love to do it, and they love to do it 5 minutes after the final episode has aired or 5 minutes after the movie has opened in the theaters. There's a great, great closing line that Alan Rickson delivers as Jack Reacher at the end of episode 4. That's all I can tell you. Awesome, awesome, awesome closing line at the end of episode 4. And if you're not watching Reacher, shame on you. Cannot wait for the next few episodes. Not sure how many there are going to be. I don't know if we're going 8, 10, or even more than that. I doubt it in the way these studios and these streaming services operate now. They like to say, less is more. Less episodes, but more money. We're going to charge you more money for less. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. But Reacher is worth it. Reacher is worth the price of admission, along with the free shipping, to have Amazon Prime. Of course, Fargo is into season 5. Now, we discussed this last week. It looks like this one's 10 episodes. So, right now, I'm through episode 6. Episode 7 just dropped the other night. Haven't had a chance to watch it yet. So, through 6 episodes, and again, a very, very solid season of Fargo. Noah Hawley doing wonderful things with Fargo and with FX. Of course, he's also going to be in charge of their upcoming Alien miniseries. Can't wait for that. But so far, through 6 episodes in Fargo, we're starting to see some unusual alliances form. People banding together, people making agreements, very, very loose, tension-filled agreements and alliances that you wouldn't have expected after the first couple episodes. So I'll leave it at that for you. Again, don't want to spoil too much for you. But just like Reacher, if you're not watching Fargo on FX, I believe it's also next day on Hulu, get into it. Fargo is one of the most well-done shows in TV and streaming. And then I mentioned in the last segment, Obliterated. Now, I know all the episodes were released already, and I'm playing catch-up. Some of you guys might have already watched all of it. It's very fun. You've got a bunch of drunk, stoned federal agents who thought they had just averted a disaster in Las Vegas, an atomic bomb going off, so they party hardy, and then they realize they didn't get the right bomb. They got a fake. The real bomb is still out there, and while they are drunk, hungover, stoned, they have got to, in a limited time frame, obviously, no time to sober up, find the real nuke. Now, what makes this fun, on top of that premise, as opposed to Saltburn, which I just reviewed in the last segment, using an old, tired plot line that we have seen over and over again, this is kind of different and interesting to me. Maybe you guys have seen a show or a movie like this, but this is original to me. Stone drunk, hungover federal agents having to avert a nuclear crisis while fighting through the effects of drugs and alcohol. To me, that's a little different. That's a little new. Scary. It's probably happened in real life. But Obliterated, I'm through 2 episodes now. Gonna kind of take it one at a time, once a week maybe, while I'm watching other movies and other shows, obviously keeping up on Reacher and Fargo as well. So I'm just through the first couple. But again, more penis shots. Great. Just what we need in life. More full male frontal nudity. Jesus God. My kingdom for some cleavage. There is some cleavage and some boobies in here too, though, so a little bit more equal opportunity nudity as opposed to Saltburn. But I am enjoying Obliterated. It's fun. It is fun. So I will continue on with that. I'm sure Dave is watching it as well. So next week we will discuss it more as we push through Obliterated on Netflix. All right, so now it is time to move on to Moments of Silence. And it always seems like we've got a lot more Moments of Silence in pop culture than we do in sports each and every week. And this week is no different. So we'll start off with the big one. And it's for people of my generation, probably even older than me. Oh boy. So we hope you're listening there in the old folks' home, Grammy and Grandpa. Tommy Smothers passed away. And again, this was really even before my time. The Smothers Brothers. Their variety show lasted just for a couple years on network TV, but they had some of the biggest names in rock and roll on the show. They were very funny, but their sense of humor was a little bit off the wall, probably for the mid to late 60s, a little too hard for some people to grasp, to comprehend. Dare I say they were ahead of their time? But go on YouTube, track down some of their old shows. Smothers Brothers were very funny, very original, and they had a rock and roll heart to them. So thoughts and prayers to, obviously, Dick Smothers, the entire Smothers family, and their fans. Lots of music related passings this week, unfortunately. One of the original Dixie Chicks. Yes, I will call them the Dixie Chicks, not the Chicks, because they caved to PC garbage. And they've always been just on the wrong side of everything when it comes to politics and social views. I'm sorry. They're ignorant. They always have been. They always will be. We can't call ourselves the Dixie is a bad word. Dixie has a connotation of slavery and oppression. Oh, shut up. The only reason you're saying that is because you're making it so. It's self-realization. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You say Dixie means bad things, ergo, it is a bad word. The Dixie Chicks, the original member, unfortunately dies in a car accident. Laura Lynch. Thoughts and prayers to her family and her friends. Saxophonist Mars Williams, who played with the Waitresses and the Psychedelic Furs, has passed away. You Metallica fans out there, of course, Lars Ulrich, phenomenal drummer, leader, basically de facto leader of Metallica. His father, Torben Ulrich, has left us. Led a full life, though. Led a very, very full life. Almost made it, I believe. Just came up a couple years short of 100. So he led a very, very full life. But of course, devil horns up for the father of Lars Ulrich. And then finally, I think there's going to be more to this story, and I'm sure there are already speculation, articles out there, journalists, quote unquote, who have delved into this to find out why this happened, but at a very young age, actor from the recent Best Picture winner, I believe 3 years ago, maybe 4, Parasite, actor Lee Sun-kyun, unfortunately has died. There's some, again, tawdry items, speculations, theories swirling around about drugs and blackmail. But you figure he dies in his mid-30s. There's something going on there. There is probably something odd going on there. So Lee Sun-kyun has passed away, actor in the Oscar-winning movie Parasite. All right, and you know that means it's time, as Ross Geller said in the classic sitcom Friends, it is time to pivot. Pivot! We go from honoring the dead to berating the idiots. It is time for the pop culture weekly rundown of the Red Foreman dumb asses of the week. And of course, if you do not know who Red Foreman is, shame on you. The patriarch of the Foreman family in That 70s Show, and now That 90s Show on Netflix. First up, I loved the Dukes of Hazzard growing up. I loved the Dukes of Hazzard. Let me put that out there first and foremost. But John Schneider, one of the Duke brothers, one of the Duke boys, I don't care if you're conservative. I don't care if you're liberal. I don't care race, creed, color, religion. You do not threaten the President of the United States. Well, I guess if you're Kathy Griffin, you can. If you remember, she loved to photograph herself, put pictures of herself on social media holding a severed head of Donald Trump. She gets away with it. And she is a despicable, deplorable, awful, heinous, evil human being. But John Schneider does not get a pass. John Schneider went off on X, formerly known as Twitter, and basically called for the public hanging of the President Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden for high crimes. You do not do this. Again, I don't care who you are, what side of the political fence or spectrum you're on. I don't care about your race, your creed, your color, your religion, your sexual orientation. We can agree to disagree on a lot of things, but you do not threaten the life of the President of the United States. In that sense, we've all got to be like military members. We have got to stay by a certain code, live by certain rules that you do not cross. You do not cross that line. And John Schneider, you are an unbelievable dumbass for threatening the life, calling for the life of the President of the United States. An unbelievable, ridiculous, stupid, dumbass move. I don't care if you're drunk. I don't care if you're on drugs. I don't care what your excuse is. You do not cross that line. You do not. You can call him an idiot, which I do all the time. You can call his son a degenerate, which I do all the time. But you do not threaten anyone's life. You do not threaten anyone's life. Oh, God, just when we thought we were done with this, it's come back. It's like gonorrhea. Spencer Eldon. He is the kid, the young child, the infant who appeared on the cover of Nirvana's classic grunge album, Nevermind. And there was a judge out on the West Coast who thankfully we thought ended this whole ridiculous melodrama by throwing this case out of court, but a federal appeals court has revived his lawsuit, Spencer Eldon's lawsuit, basically claiming child pornography because he's on the cover with his wee-wee hanging out. Boy, doesn't that seem to be the theme this week? Never thought I would have a Sports Frenzy weekend edition where all I ended up talking about was penises, dicks, and wee-wees. Oh my God. Spencer Eldon is upset and traumatized and claiming it's child pornography because he was on the cover of Nevermind with his little tiny infant wee-wee hanging out. Never mind the fact that the album cover is a statement about greed and how society teaches children from the womb to the tomb to chase the almighty dollar, capitalism. Now, you can agree or disagree with the sentiment, but it's still brilliant. It's a brilliant album cover, it's a brilliant theme behind the album cover. But Spencer Eldon says he's been traumatized. Oh my God. Oh my God, will this idiot just go away? Get over it already. Sue your parents. Your parents were the ones that took a couple $100 and allowed you to be on the album cover. Stop suing Nirvana. Stop suing everybody and anybody associated with the band or the record company. Get over it. There's nothing sexual involved in the picture. Sometimes nudity is just nudity. Unfortunately, in Obliterated and Saltburn, it's not. But here on the cover of Nevermind, just get over it, Spencer. Move on. Spencer Eldon, you're a dumbass. Let's call out a quote-unquote journalist for our next dumbass of the week. Now, I'll admit, I find out a lot about news in the entertainment world from Deadline.com, and I hate to even give them a mention here for this. I don't want to help promote them given the fact that I'm about to call one of their writers a supreme and complete dumbass. Carolyn Frost is her name. Recently put a pathetic, awful, disgusting article on Deadline.com, dug up a couple quote-unquote fellow journalists who none of us have ever remotely even heard of. Obscure journalists to help substantiate her claims in this very, very brief article, by the way. If you remember back in the 80s, there was a movement to help ease the suffering of people in Ethiopia, famine relief. We all remember USA for Africa, and then, of course, the first was Band-Aid over in the UK. And they put out the song, Do They Know It's Christmas? Well, Carolyn Frost put together this little bullshit article. Nasty. She is disgusting for doing this, by the way. She is disgusting. I don't know how she can look at herself in the mirror. Putting together this article, and again, bringing in not just two. Again, this is why I'm emphasizing it's a very short article. It's not a huge expose piece. She just happened to find two. I believe they're both African writers, African journalists. So that's her claim to substantiate her thesis that the song Do They Know It's Christmas is racist. Oh, we have to revisit the lyrics and how degrading and demeaning the lyrics are to people in Africa. Shut the fuck up, Carolyn. Shut up. You're the exact type of person we do not need in this world. All you're looking for is ways to tear down good things, tear down positive things. How much help, how much good did Band-Aid and USA for Africa do? Now, you can argue that there's probably some administrative corruption and all the money didn't make it all the way through to its stated purpose, which you can say about pretty much any charity endeavor. But for Carolyn Frost to put together this pathetic short, quote unquote, expose about how racist the song Do They Think It's Christmas is one of the most gut-wrenching, disgusting displays of faux journalism I've ever seen in my life. And if it wasn't for the fact that the plane of doom is packed right now, I'd be more than happy to have her take a seat. She, again, is the type of person we don't fucking need in this world. Why don't you do what Bob Geldof and all the artists who were involved in Band-Aid did? And why don't you do something good for the world instead of always trying to tear things down and find the negative? Oh, but wait, our final dumbass of the week. Another person who just can't wait to look for the negative, to blame everybody in the world except for herself. And this is an actress I used to really like. I used to love the TV show Person of Interest. Jim Caviezel, Michael Emerson, and of course Taraji P. Henson starred in that show. It was fantastic. And while Jim Caviezel is making movies based on faith, of course he starred in The Passion of the Christ, and most recently the surprise hit Sound of Freedom about child trafficking. And yes, there's even disgusting, heinous people out there trying to tear that movie apart and find the insidious underbelly of the man the movie was based on. Taraji P. Henson has gone almost 180, complete opposite of her former castmate in Person of Interest. We all know Empire was on Fox for years and years. I didn't watch it. I don't like rap music. Didn't care about it. But now in the last week or two, Taraji P. Henson has decided that she needs to be in the spotlight again for all the wrong reasons. Number one, we all know pay disparity. That's a big catchphrase now in politics. You want to shame men. You want to make men feel awful and terrible and bad. Bring up pay disparity. Pay disparity, especially white men. You're not paying women as much as the men. You're not paying minority men as much as Caucasian men. And on and on and on. But of course, here we're talking about female versus male pay discrepancies. And on a show recently, Taraji P. Henson had to break down in tears, crying about how hard she works. Oh my God, how hard she works, and she's not getting nearly enough compared to her male counterparts. Yeah, are you like struggling to eat, Miss Henson? You having trouble finding a place to live? Because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of homeless people out there, a lot of people struggling, to make ends meet. A lot of people living paycheck to paycheck who got it a lot worse than you. And of course, what do you think? And this was a comment. I'm going to paraphrase a comment I read that was attached to one of these articles about her, where a very, very astute, very rare to find an astute, intelligent person commenting on one of these articles. But this person basically said, so does she think she should get what? Leonardo DiCaprio money? Does she think she's that popular? Pay is based on popularity. She is not Halle Berry. She is not Julia Roberts. So who exactly is she trying to compare herself to? And who does she want to get paid like? Sorry, not shedding a tear for her, but then it gets better or worse. She brags about how she fired her entire team, quote unquote, entire team, for not capitalizing on her success on the show Empire. Okay. And a lot of people out there, again, the 95% of people who comment on these articles who are idiots, going, you go, girl, you're awesome, you keep up the good fight. But the quote, when she was railing about how she and bragging about how she fired her team, the math ain't mathin'. Yep, you heard me right. The math ain't mathin'. So not only is Taraji P. Henson just a despicable, nasty, yet another despicable, nasty Hollywood star gone rogue, but she thinks saying something like the math ain't mathin', she thinks it's cool. She thinks it's down with the peeps. What is she? She sounds like an idiot. She sounds like an uneducated idiot. The math ain't mathin'. God forbid she would say the math doesn't calculate. The math doesn't compute properly. No, she says the math ain't mathin'. So on so many levels here, to wrap up the dumbasses of the week, Taraji P. Henson, you are an incredible dumbass. And that's going to do it for the weekend edition. The final episode of Sports Frenzy for 2023 is over. But there's always 2024, kids. Next week's weekend edition, of course, the long-awaited music recap. Dave and I will give you our best of 2023 when it comes to albums, songs, and concerts in our music segment. We'll also, of course, give you our weekly updates on Reacher, Fargo, and Obliterated. In terms of movies, I still need to play catch up on a couple movies that Dave's already watched. No Hard Feelings, Expendables 4. So we'll see. I'm really intrigued. I might end up watching The Holdovers, starring Paul Giamatti, which just hit Peacock this Friday, December the 29th. So that could be my review for you next week when it comes to movies. Who am I kidding? It's the holidays. Maybe I'll have 2 or 3 reviews for you. Who knows? And I've already mentioned in books, one of the most highly anticipated books of the year, the latest Jack Reacher book from Lee and Andrew Child, The Secret. Dave and I will both chime in, have our reviews of that for you next week as well. So, we bid adieu to 2023 and we say, what's up to 2024? Hope you're along for the ride as we start another season of Sports Frenzy 2.0. I'm the Maestro, Kevin Crane. Thank you very much for listening. Who knows, maybe next year we're going to start trying to bring you in even more with some Q&As, some polls, some of these things that Spotify are host platform recommends. We shall see. But for now, have a very safe, very enjoyable, and happy New Year's Eve. Safe being the operative keyword. Have a designated driver if you're going somewhere. We do not want to lose you as a listener. We do not want to lose you as an intelligent human being, because God knows we need more of you to stick around to try to offset the idiots of the world, because we know there are so many of them and so few of us. The sports edition returns next Thursday morning, and in 7 days, 7 short days, we'll be back here. Your Saturday morning hangover cure, the weekend edition, Sports Frenzy 2.0. Take care, everybody. Peace out.
Bum-ba-dee-da, bum-ba-dee-da, bum-ba-dee-da. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then.
Who cares about the clouds when we're together? Just sing a song and think about sunny weather. Happy trails to you until we meet